Hi, good evening, everyone. Um, I do a lot of things. No, like as they mentioned, I'm an artist, curator, writer, founder of spaces. But tonight specifically, I'll be talking about art books. This is, I think, we are the only bookstore in Manila that specializes on books on Philippine art and culture. This started in 2014. So we are celebrating our 4 years anniversary this month, actually. Um, and I didn't bring some slides or anything, but I brought books. Now, the kinds of books that we carry at the store, it's not the usual stuff that you will see in National Bookstore or Fully Booked or any of the major chains. Each and every single book that comes to the store is personally selected by me. I started with 100 books 4 years ago. I think now I've cataloged over 700 titles. So it's growing, I think. When we started, we were like me and Katya, who's my partner in the store. We really just wanted to focus on art books. But then, if we did that, maybe we'll just have one shelf. Because when you say art books, it's really a very particular type of book. Something like this. This is by Gino Javier. I think there's only 30 editions. It's basically a photo book of his different photographs of cars. We also have books like zines like Lena Cobangbang's coloring books. We do also carry like certain books published by more mainstream publishers like university presses. We work with UP Press, UST Press, Ateneo, of course, LaSalle. No, not really LaSalle, UST. So from just focusing on something very particular like an artist book, we decided to broaden it a bit to include other books as long as it's on Philippine art. So yeah, something like this, End of National Cinema by Patrick Campos. Or this is Nick de Ocampos' Ega. It's part of a trilogy of books on film history. We also have, so aside, of course, visual arts is our, bulk of our books is on visual arts because we're visual artists, me and Katya. But we also, carry books on film and photography, architecture, design, performing arts, music, dance, cultural heritage, and what else? Some biographies, some books on history. We even have books on plants because it was a nice visual reference also. So it's pretty broad, yeah. We work with, aside from, I said we work with some mainstream publishers like the university presses, Anvil. Bulk of the publishers who work with us they're mostly independent. And we also work with galleries and museums and artists also. We work directly with them, and we do partly half of it is consignment, half of it we purchase directly from artists. So if it's like, you know, some artists will come and say, I have 5 zines to sell. Sometimes it's easier for us to just buy the 5 zines than to get into a consignment agreement and do our payouts every quarter or something like that. So half and half. So, but it's also hard because it's a, you know, investment on our part as a bookstore. It's since this is also about, like, you know, how we fund this. We are a business. We are not like an. I don't want. I think we've graduated. I mean, I still see the bookstore as an artist-run space, but we are also a business. And I think what we really need to do is concentrate on really selling the books, because a lot of people think that books are just cheap or it should be free or whatever, but it actually costs a lot to produce a book. So it's nice for publishers, especially for independent publishers and artists, to get some of their money back. Some other books that we carry, like we carry a lot of exhibition catalogs, because I think, like, exhibitions are very, very temporary. After 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's gone. So what's left? It's nice to have catalogs. Not all galleries and museums publish, but if they do, we usually try to work out an arrangement with them. We also carry catalogs are also nice because they're not as expensive as big books, so it's more affordable for people. And it's a good introduction, I think, if you want to get to know more about a particular artist or type of let's say movement or something like that. Because one reason why we opened the bookstore was, I think, you know, the art scene is really flourishing. You have so many galleries, you have exhibitions every week. But there's not much room for discourse. There's not a lot of opportunity for people to you know, go beyond just the exhibition. So, and we do have, I think, a really, really poor grasp of our own history, of our own art history. We know more about artists in the States or in Europe than artists working here. So that's also part of our advocacy. We're really, you know, trying to push for an awareness and, you know, for better cultural literacy. So some other books I brought, this is like, let's say, H.R. Ocampo. This is an out-of-print catalog produced by CCP in the 90s. So we carry stuff like that. We carry Art Asia Pacific. It's the only magazine, actually, that we carry in the store. We don't focus too much on magazines, but I wish we could. I wish there were more like local magazines that we can carry, but there's not much. And then really special books like Tommy Hafalia's first book. He's a Baguio-based photographer, so he all his photos are, they're like black and white photographs of the Cordillera. What else did I bring? Intramuros by Nick Joaquin, which was a good reference for me when I was working on the Manila Biennale. This is a catalog of the 70s. This is an exhibition I curated early this year at the Ateneo Art Gallery. And this is one book that I also published. I have another group called King Kong Arts Projects Unlimited. And this is a group, we're focused on the work of Roberto Chabet. So we take care of the works, publish about the work, and also organize exhibitions. So this is a Chabet book. Took 3 years to or more. I don't even remember anymore. From the beginning of the writing to the publishing took a while. But I think this is really one book that I'm super proud of. And you know, something like the work of Chabet, who's very ephemeral. Like all of his installations are gone after the exhibition. It's really good to have something like printed afterwards. A lot of times people ask me, you know, why are you still selling print books? Everyone's going into ebooks. I think ebooks are great for certain things. If it's like a school book or something like this, or a novel, maybe. But for art books, I think it's really nice to have something tangible. That's you know, something that you can really keep, especially for books like that are very visual. So like this Chabet book, it's really not just about the text, but it's not just reading the book, but it's really experiencing a book, which I think is important. So I work closely with the designer to, you know, to how to conceptualize the entire book, using different paper, different margins, different type of binding, doing inserts, things like that. What else about the store? Maybe you can just ask me questions. It's easier. So,
Hello. Anyone have questions? Anyone? Yes.
Hi, I'm Mary. My question would be, I'm not sure if you've mentioned it, I was out a bit, but have you ever been to a bookstore, or maybe you had read a book that struck you so much that it inspired you or something, that it was something that made you think more about pushing forward the art books, or kind of an influence, something unforgettable or remarkable bookstore or book?
uh, our influence. I mean, we were looking at when we were planning the store. Actually, well, we went through. We had to decide, like, because in the beginning, we thought that maybe we'll just be an online store, because that would make our life simpler. But we had a space. We have a space in Pioneer Street. This was a photography. This was Katya's photography studio, and we decided to convert the first room of the photography studio into the bookstore. We were looking at not a particular book, you know, but we were looking at our sort of models for the store was Printed Matter in New York. Was also looking into DAP. This is a distributor of. It's an international distributor of art books. But of course, you know, it's hard to compare New York and Manila. It's the scene is very different. So that was like, that was sort of like an inspiration, but we have to work with the local context here of operating a store in Manila. I asked my friend Padma Perez, who owns Mount Cloud in Baguio, for few tips. I mean, our mind was really set on, okay, we're gonna open a bookstore, whether what, but we just ask around, and then the rest we had to really figure out along the way, by ourselves. Like, before I opened the art books, I didn't have Facebook or things like this. I hated social media. I had to learn that because it's part of running the store, So you have to adjust. You have to do what you need to do.
Yes.
Hello, Mars. I just want to know if the art books gets its funding, or, I mean, is supported by the publishing side. I mean, your other business. Does that work hand in hand?
Um, Art Books is partner with Pioneer Studio. So we share the rent, the staff. We have very small staff, and I think it's me, Katya. We have a secretary. We have someone who does the photography, and basically someone who packs the books. That's it, And then if we split it with Pioneer, with the photography studio, it makes things more manageable. But we really like, because our markup on books is very small. I mean, it's not like the way you mark up artworks, and so we're really working with the small margin. So I think it's good to keep the operations really low as much as we can, so that we can sort of cover all bases.
Can I just ask? Sorry. I actually wanted to know if there is a certain feeling or sensation that you imagine people, or you hope people would have whenever they enter the bookstore. Was that something that you tried to craft, or that you hope for whenever someone visits the bookstore?
We don't really try to craft it. It's just the way things are. We try to have a conducive space, I guess. And we're not like, like, let's say Mount Cloud, they do a lot of events, things like that in their store. Us, we really don't do that. We really want to be just a quiet bookstore, where you can come and read and have a coffee, maybe chat with someone or do research. We're not like, because a lot of times people who come to the store, they're not just really there to buy. Some are just there to read, and we're fine with that. Like we have students coming in. They sort of like use us as a library, and that's fine too. So yeah, but we don't. We really just want to be like that. We don't want to. We don't want to serve coffee. We don't want to, we don't want to be like too hybrid, because sometimes that distracts you from your main thing. So our main thing is really the books, and it's there. Like we're open 6 days a week. We keep regular hours. It's really like we try to be a normal bookstore as much as possible.
Hello po, Danny. You've seen a lot of kinds ng libro. What do you think should creators, what topics do you think creators need to do more here in the Philippines?
What topics should be covered? Um, we do get a lot of, because also I'd like to clarify that our bookstore, we don't carry literary books. So we don't carry novels, we don't carry short stories and poetry, and it's really art books. So for us, I think a lot of times people come and say, do you have a book that will be sort of like give me an overview of Philippine contemporary art? We don't have a book like that. We have like, I think the Manila Bulletin published like this 2 big volumes, like Filipino artists in their studio. But it's really more like individual profiles than having like one narrative. So I think people are really looking for reference material from our experience. They want like, and also because the profile of people who come to our store, it's mostly artists, people working in the art community, collectors, and people like we have book collectors who come. We also carry rare books. So, because buying an art book is it can be expensive. So if they're gonna invest their money on a book, they want it to be really useful. Like I find, although we carry like a broad range of books, the books that, we also have books that are just purely visual, like photo books. I have a hard time actually selling that. But maybe it's just because the type of people who come to the store. So something like they prefer to buy, like a good reference book for 5,000 than to buy something small and cute for 300.
Yes.
Good evening. First, I would like to ask if how do you curate those art books that will be worthy for the bookstore, and also given that you said, ma'am, that that you place a small markup for those books, how do you actually manage to sustain the bookstore, for example?
Well, how do I select? Your first question. I work closely with the publishers. Like they tell me, okay, these are the new books available. I also go out of my way, like because for independent publishers, they don't really have the machinery, for distribution and for promotion. So sometimes we have to really work harder with the independent publishers. So I look around what's available. For museums and galleries, I go see the exhibitions anyway. So if they have new material, I know about it. Sometimes the artists themselves or publishers, they come to the store, they bring copies, or they write to us and say, "Are you interested in this book?" For rare books, sometimes we have to go through the underground. to source them from other book collectors, other booksellers. Sometimes we import books from Amazon or from abroad. We also work with international distributors, like in the region, like books from Singapore. But now the dollar is so high, it's so hard to import books. So I really try to focus on locally published books. We try to keep our carbon footprint a little smaller also, because shipping costs a lot, and this affects the pricing of books. Sometimes just shipping is sometimes more expensive than the book.
One last, we have room for one more question. Yes.
Hello po, good evening. We have lots of literary giants in the Philippines. We have Nick Joaquin, we've got Ambet Ocampo, and I wanted to ask, since they've contributed much to the enrichment of Philippine culture, where should the focus be for, let's say, academic writers on art? Where should their focus be now that we've established we have long researches on the topic of Filipino identity?
What should they? I think it's good to be as diverse as possible, and not. I don't. I would not suggest to, like, okay, this is the type of topic that we should pursue. I think we should pursue as many topics as possible, to really broaden our knowledge, and not be too myopic. Yeah.